Haslahale, welcome to the Old Growth Table. Valerie Segrest Seedsta, Muckleshoot Tribe. My name is Valerie Segrest, and I'm a Muckleshoot tribal member, a mama, a wife, a nutritionist, and an herbalist who is passionate about our relationships with the plants and foods that our ancestors would recognize. This podcast is a space for storytelling, wisdom sharing, and reconnecting with the land and our ancestral food traditions. And here we don't just talk about food as medicine, we live it. Our ingredients carry stories, our meals are acts of ceremony, and every bite is an opportunity to nourish our bodies, our spirits, and our communities. The plants and foods themselves are our greatest teachers. When we learn where they come from and tend them with care and advocate for their return, we strengthen our relationship with the land and with ourselves. Every episode, we honor the knowledge passed down through generations, celebrating Indigenous food systems and the ecological wisdom that sustains us all. Today, we step into the season of awakening, springtime. After months of winter stillness, the land is stirring, and so are we. This is a time of renewal, when the first wild foods of the year emerge, offering nourishment just when we need it the most. And in the spirit of honoring our relationship with the land, we're exploring the concept of our food is our medicine. We'll be working with the wild and vibrant greens of spring, nettles and dandelion greens, ancestral foods that help restore balance in our bodies. And so I'm going to walk you through how to process and store nettles so you can enjoy them all year long. It's one of my favorite things to do in the springtime. Plus, we'll prepare nettle sprout soup and braised dandelion greens, two very simple, delicious ways to welcome the season's first ingredients right into our kitchens. And in the spirit of community, we're not alone in this exploration. We are going to have special guests calling in. Mariah Gladstone of the Indigikitchen and Sherman. You might have heard of him. He wrote a book called The Sioux Chef. These incredible advocates are going to call in and share their reflections on how our food is our medicine and what they think about that. So spring really invites us to listen, gather, and nourish. Let's step into this moment together. So we're going to start with talking about nettle, and if you're going to go out and look for this, what are the things that you're going to be looking for? How do you know that you're actually getting nettles? And this plant is actually pretty famous because it stings you. So a lot of people will know if they're getting the right thing because if you're ever in doubt, you can actually just touch it and it will sting you. And you'll know you've got yourself some stinging nettle. You'll feel it pretty instantly, and that numbing sensation on your skin will last for, up to 24 hours unless you have some neat little remedies up your sleeve. And the remedies are super fun. They're kind of like things that you would do to your little brother. I have 3 little brothers, so I like to pick on my younger siblings. Using mud to get rid of your nettle sting, or snot also works. I've actually had my little brother stuff his finger up his nose once and it worked. Slug slime is another great way to get rid of your nettle sting. You can also not have to intentionally sting yourself and look at the shape of the stem. It is actually a square, a box stem. The leaves are actually alternating. So you've got 2 going this way, 2 going this way, 2 going this way, 2 going this way, all the way up. And this is the first green on the forest floor. So if you're looking out at the edge of the forest or the prairies or the fields, you're going to see nettles growing right through long, tall grass. Nettles have the ability to just push through that darkness and that dampness in the soil and are considered these biodynamic accumulators, pulling up all of the minerals, the calcium, the iron, the phosphorus right out of the soil and manufacturing these gorgeous bodies in the process. We, pitiful humans, cannot do that, right? We can't bury our feet into the dirt and capture energy from the sun and manufacture calcium in our bodies. We rely on plants to do that for us. Nettles grow to be 7 to 9 feet tall. So we're getting them right now when they're about 6 to 12 inches tall. And you can wait until just before they get to like maybe your kneecap, because as nettles get taller, they get more fibrous and less palatable. And that's actually why we harvest them late in the fall when they get super tall and make cordage out of them. They were used for fishing nets and are some of the strongest cordage in the world. You don't want to be eating that, right? That's why we get them when they're tender and young in the springtime, because the leaves are still full of water and also super nutritious. Kind of like when you buy microgreens at the store and you're eating sprouts. Those little sprouts contain all the energy of a full plant, so they're packed full of nutrition. In fact, just like 3 little sprout bites are like eating a whole entire head of broccoli. So you're doing the same thing with nettles. They're incredibly nutrient dense. You don't need a whole lot of them. 1 cup of nettles has 29 times more calcium than a cup of spinach does. So if you can imagine, like Popeye was actually created to promote the consumption of spinach. But if you can imagine what would happen to Popeye if he cracked open a can of nettles, he would just like shoot to outer space. He would be a psychopath, which he kind of is, but nettles come out in the springtime, right when we really need to fortify our bodies as well, though. They are incredibly high in calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus. Those are all of the minerals that our body uses to manufacture blood. And then they have this affinity to our liver and our kidneys. They help us gently detoxify. And they support our epithelial system, which is what grows skin and nails and hair. We're coming out of that winter slumber, and then boom, nettles come shooting through the forest floor. It's dark out there, and you got this like hope, this green flicker of light that's shooting through the damp forest floor. And when we eat it, it helps us build that stamina and that strength and regenerate in so many ways so that we can like accomplish all of the visions that we've been dreaming up for ourselves in the winter season. So it helps us to stand back up again. Also, the spring nettles in particular have a component in them called quercetin, which is what helps us get through seasonal allergies. So we're eating them at a time when we really need to build our body's immune system up to be able to stand up to environmental changes around us to help us get attuned to those transitions in season as well. You're going to find nettles growing at the edge of the forest, the prairie, the farmland, the garden, and I find that the biggest medicine always grows in those edges, the place where 2 worlds collide. That space between the forest and the prairie, there's so many different forms of life, insects and pollinators and plants, and it's an ecosystem hotspot. And so how can we also live in those 2 spaces and be big medicine for the world, like nettles are? They have a lot to teach us by just the way they grow. They remind us about being present in the moment. Mindfulness is really a teaching of nettle, because when you move slow and with good intention, nettles actually see that and they don't sting you. But if you're not really paying attention and you're just sort of walking by them, they'll get you. Sometimes people think of it as annoying, but it actually can be a really great blessing. And so we think about that when we're out harvesting. How can we harvest in an honorable way that's going to respect the plant and the food that's giving its life for us to have life? My elders always remind me that when we're harvesting, we make it look like we were never even there. If you're a math person, you might think about only taking 20% of what you're seeing. You don't want to take too much, because it's almost like you're clipping your fingernails and you clip too far and then it's like sore. We don't want to make the plants feel that way. So you just take what you need, you make sure to give back, leave the place better than the way you found it. You might think about things like cleaning up the area around you, making an offering, watering the plant, picking up the trash. And I always make sure that when I'm harvesting, I'm thinking about how I want people to feel when they eat my food or use my medicine. I want them to feel good. And so when I'm harvesting, I hold that focus and that intention. And that really helps me stay in a good mindset. These are important human acts that help us reconnect with our food and the source of our food, and make sure that we're taking the time and effort to honor the plant that is giving its life for us to have a good life as well. Okay, so we discussed why nettles are spring medicine, but there are so many other wild greens out there that are also medicine, and a great example of that is dandelion. We typically think of dandelion as a common weed or something that's really obnoxious and gets in our way and tries to take over our garden, but dandelions and dandelion greens in the springtime are big medicine, and they are free food that are waiting for you right outside your door. It's actually not a native green here. It is a transplant, but my elders tell me that when our ancestors saw this plant show up, they immediately knew it was medicine and adapted it into their herbal apothecaries. So dandelion greens are another wild spring green that give that bitter medicine to our palates, and we just don't get a whole lot of bitter flavors in our everyday diet. A good example of a bitter flavor would be like dark chocolate or black coffee. We get that in the springtime from eating wild greens. When we eat that bitter, our taste buds activate this biological process, this physiological process in our body that helps increase our digestive fire and also activates peristalsis, which is this beautiful sort of movement that our entire digestive tract makes to make sure that the food we eat continues to move out of our body. You want to have a bitter flavor when you're, sitting down to eat a big heavy meal. Maybe you're eating a big steak. You want to put your wild greens on the side. Maybe try some braised bitter greens or braised dandelion greens or a nettle sprout soup to help build that digestive fire and increase your nourishment at the same time. So if you want to harvest dandelions, I always think about how they just kind of grow everywhere. It's like they're in your backyard, they're in the high alpine meadows at the very tippy tops of the mountains. They're bursting through the cracks of sidewalks. They have so much energy, so much life force. And that reminds me of a teaching. If you are out there trying really hard in your life and really trying to be big medicine in the world, you should be like the dandelion. And like, no matter what anybody tries to do to you, you still come back. That to me is so inspiring to think about how, and so true. I mean, that's exactly what dandelions do. You try to pluck them out of your garden, you try to poison them with leftover chemicals from past warfare, and they still return. And when they come back, they're doing amazing things with your soil. They're increasing the nutrient quality at the top level of the soil, or their dandelion root, which gets really big and fat. It's aerating really disturbed areas on the land. And then it's manifesting itself from like drawing nutrition up from the soil and collecting it from the sunlight and building this whole body of minerals that are things we as humans, as pitiful humans who can't do all of those things, absolutely rely on for our own cellular processes and our own medicine. And to me, that makes dandelion really inspirational. If you want to go harvest dandelion in your own backyard or out in the wild, I would recommend looking around you. Just like we talked about with nettles and the honorable harvest, you definitely want to make sure you're in an area where you're allowed to be. You don't want to be harvesting from, maybe a place that's frequented by dogs or humans. And make sure you rinse your dandelion greens really, really well because they do collect dirt pretty easily. And you're looking for we call it the doctrine of signatures. There's something about the way the plant is shaped that actually also helps us identify it. And so dandelion has this sort of jagged tooth edge on the outer part of the leaf, and that is called the lion's tooth, or dente leon, or dandelion, which is how you know you're getting the right thing. You also want to be looking for one stem and one blossom. There are lots of false dandelions out there. Those false dandelions have one stem and several blossoms on the top of it, so you know you're not getting the right thing. Dandelion blossoms turn into these seed wish balls. Kids are out there collecting and harvesting them and blowing them into the wind, and dandelion and all of its beautiful medicine is carrying those wishes out and reseeding itself, which is so genius of a plant, where it can actually inspire you as a human to pick it up and spread its seed like that. So another reason why it's probably never going to go away. You can really follow this plant through this season because in the fall time, all of its vitality is going back to its roots. It's going inside, just like how we ready ourselves for winter during the season of fall, where we're going back inside, we're reflecting on what worked, we're pruning back what didn't, and we're starting to think about our visions and dreaming during that winter season. Dandelion helps us get through all of those seasons in that way. All right, it's time for the call-in segment. Is this Mariah?
Yeah, this is Mariah.
Well, hey, I'm so grateful that you took some time out to give me a call today. And I am really excited to get your perspective because Indigikitchen and all the things that you do, I'm looking at your beautiful new book, Mountains to Oceans, Kids Recipes from Native Land. It aligns so well with the Old Growth Table because it's all about eating ancestrally, and that's what you do so well. All right, so the first question is, what does the phrase, our food is our medicine, mean to you? And is there a plant, a dish, or a practice in your community that really embody this idea?
When we connect with our traditional foods, we don't do that in a vacuum. There's no way to eat ancestrally just buying food from the grocery store. There is an actual practice of being on the land, whether that's hunting, foraging, planting things in a garden, whatever that may be. There's a practice of engaging with the land. It's the sun on your face with for Pacific Northwesters, the rain on your face.
I just see it in my community too, right? Like when people are out and they're actively engaged on the land, harvesting, hunting, fishing, and doing it all with such really beautiful intention, it's just like they're activated and we're really feeding ourselves on more than just like the physiological level that nutrition science really gets at. I'm wondering if you could sit at the Old Growth Table, what dish would you bring and what story would you want to share with us?
I like things that merge my Blackfeet ancestors. This is, of course, a hunter-gatherer tradition, the Northern Plains, with my Cherokee ancestors, which is planting ingenuity. And I like merging those things together. So I think I would bring a bison and hominy stuffed squash because it has those foods like squash and corn from my Cherokee ancestors, and then, of course, bison, which were such a staple food of the land that I grew up on and the land that I live now. And also a food that takes care of our landscape.
I love it. Yeah, those flavors really activate our ancestral DNA, and help remind us of who we are and where we come from. And your recipe sounds so delicious. I can't wait for you to come see me and we can make it together. Well, that was really great to hear from Mariah, and I'm just so grateful that she took the time out to share with us. I really have always admired Indigikitchen and the stories that she tells with her food and the way she just deeply connects how important it is to be active in your food system and to pass on that knowledge to younger generations. She has such a gift of just inspiring youth to eat healthier and to get their hands on some really good ancestral recipes. Thanks, Mariah. And I have a message here from Chef Sherman, who would like to share with us what all of his knowledge and wisdom is on what our food is our medicine. What does that mean to him? Let's listen together.
Our food, our medicine. To me, like it's all interconnected because we always go by that mantra, food is medicine. And it really is true because when we're looking at indigenous foods, the plants especially have such an education to give to us about all the different pieces of like what's good for us, what can we do with these things, how can we retain our cultures through these pieces. And so it's not only fulfilling as a medicine internally and physically, but also just spirituality and community health in general.
I really appreciate his perspective on this. It reminds me of a teaching that our elders always share with us to always remember that our foods and our medicines, the plant people, that they are waiting for us right outside our door, and that they're our greatest teachers. They're more than just resources and commodities to be extracted from the land. They are our relatives. And when we talk about them, we give them personhood. All we have to do is go outside and get to know them better.
If I was to come to the old growth table, of course, I love cooking seasonally. I love cooking regionally. Where I'm at right now in Minnesota, we're just on the brink of spring. So we're so close to having the forest wake up with all of the fiddlehead ferns and the ramps and the wild gingers and the morel mushrooms and maple, of course. And I think that there's a lot we can play with there. So I would just cook very seasonally and regionally to tell a story.
Yum, that's exactly what I wanted to hear about the old growth table. This is a regionally inspired meal. It's seasonal. Who isn't getting hungry thinking about fresh maple syrup and wild ramps emerging from the forest floor and morels? I like to roast them over an alder fire steeped in butter and rosemary branches. Oh my gosh, it's so good. They're like crispy little bits of bacon. I really appreciate Chef Sean calling in and answering that call and providing us with some wisdom, and I can't wait to hear more from him later on this season. Well, friends, we've made it to the end of the podcast, and at the end of every episode, we want to close the table in a good way, in alignment with our cultural values as Coast Salish people. That means that we're going to share a prayer, a song, or in this case, our spring awakening meditation. Please join me. Close your eyes and take a deep breath in. Feel the crisp, fresh air of early spring filling your lungs, and slowly exhale, releasing the stillness of winter. The land is stirring. The earth is warming. Can you hear it? The soft rustle of new leaves, the first songs of the frogs, the distant hum of awakening life. Breathe in again, deeply, and imagine standing at the edge of a forest. Before you, the first green shoots of the season are pushing through the soil, tender, resilient, full of life. These are the first gifts of spring. You reach down and touch the soft young leaves of nettle. This plant, one of the earliest to return, has come to nourish and strengthen you. It has been waiting, just like you, for the right moment to rise. Honor this moment of awakening. Just as the plants stretch towards the light, so do you. Just as the earth shakes off winter's stillness, so can you. Take another deep breath, filling yourself in with the energy of renewal. Imagine these wild greens, full of minerals, full of medicine, weaving their way into your body, restoring, replenishing, guiding you into the new season. With each breath, welcome the wisdom of the land. Let it nourish you. Let it remind you that everything has a season, and this is your season to grow. Slowly bring your awareness back. Feel your feet connected to the earth. Gently open your eyes, carrying this renewal with you. Thank you for joining us at the Old Growth Table, and I hope you take these reflections of spring right into your homes, integrating them into your life and your families and your community. We're a new podcast, so please help us out by subscribing, following, leaving a comment, sharing with us your experiences and reflections of the season. And I really want to thank you all for taking that time. You can follow us on Instagram at Old Growth Table. The Old Growth Table is a production of Tidelands, brought to life by Matika Wilbur, Pancho Sanchez, Teo Shantz. And I'm Valerie Segrest. Until next time, be well, stay rooted, and may your spring be full of nourishment and new beginnings.